Welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, and as always, I'm joined with my co-host, Josh Cox, Jamie Holt, and Scott Medlin. And fellas, we have finally made it. Football is back and better than ever, and this Friday night at 7:30, your Duke Blue Devils will kick off against the Elon Phoenix. Fellas, how are we feeling? We've been waiting for months. We had some good football this past weekend with some good upsets and some close nail biters. But how are we feeling as we head into week one?
We ready. We ready. That was it.
We are off to a rip-roaring start. Thanks, Scott.
That was incredible. We are ready for Friday night Elon. Before we jump into that, we do have a couple of sponsors. Brian, you want to start us off with our first sponsor, and I'll hit the other two.
Yeah, well, the first sponsor is giving away our tickets this week, fellas, for the Elon game. I am talking, of course, about Matt Bliven, who is a Durham native, Durham fan, and is ready to tackle any question or opportunity with you as far as real estate goes. He's super knowledgeable in the current real estate trends and has all your home needs covered. As I stated, he is giving away 4 tickets to this week's game, as well as every home game that is, for the Duke Blue Devils this 2024 season. Whether you're interested in buying, selling, investing, or buying in the triangle, give Matt a call at 919-323-0527 or email him at mlb@nestrealty.com. Josh, who else do we have to thank?
Well, Brian, real quick, man, asking you, remind us how you could enter in to win those 4 tickets to the Elon game, sponsored by Matt Bliven.
How do we, Josh?
It's the stat predictions. They got to fill out the stat predictions.
People are going to be turning us off after Scott's We Ready and me forgetting stuff. Yes, so stat predictions. Yep. You have until before Wednesday for the ticket giveaway.
Yep.
Are we saying Wednesday for the helmets too?
We can go to kickoff for the helmets.
Okay. So by this Wednesday, you have to get your season predictions in. We do have the link, I believe, that you can click on.
It's on our Twitter. We've been sharing it on Twitter, and it's gone out in the emails as well.
It's been a long Monday. We're recording on a Monday. But, folks, we already have 53 entries as of this recording. That's more than last year's when we didn't have any tickets to give away. So you might want to get in your submission as soon as you see this, because we are recording as of 8 o'clock on Monday night. It's going to drop Tuesday morning. So you will have 48 hours to get your entries in, and then we will randomly select a winner from that to get your 4 tickets to the Elon game. And then the season predictions will close Friday before kickoff, to where you could potentially win a custom-made Section 17 helmet as well as a Section 17 t-shirt. Did I miss anything, Josh? Am I good?
No, that's good. We'll put this link in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your podcast app. So I want to talk about 2 more sponsors. The first one is Home Field Apparel. You are no stranger probably to Home Field. If you know anything about what's going on in the sports world and vintage wear, they are the leaders in vintage gear. Not only does their stuff look really cool, but it is high quality. Their shirts are like super soft. All of us have some of their gear and wear it often. And so here's the cool thing. They're going to give you 15% off if you use code Section 17, all caps, straight through, Section 17 at checkout. 15% off your first order. And so they're about to release a Duke coach's jacket coming up soon. And so keep your eyes out for that, and then save yourself $15, right? So Section 17 is the code there at homefieldapparel.com, and we appreciate our friends there. And then go ahead, Brian.
One more thing, and we talked about this before we started recording tonight. There is going to be a giveaway of a Home Field product in the coming weeks. We will give you the details the night that drops, but all I can say is this is something that all of us would love to have. So just be on the lookout. You have to watch us, because we might just drop it out of nowhere one episode and how to win this product. Won't tell you what it is. You'll just have to keep watching us to see when we reveal it.
Once again, thanks to our friends at Home Field for sponsoring this year. And then we have a brand new sponsor. Well, kind of, sort of brand new sponsor ready to go for this episode and the rest of our episodes. And that is Hometown Air. Hometown Air we've had a relationship with some of their other companies in the past as sponsors, but Hometown Air brings 25 years of experience now to residential HVAC services. And so in the past, we have done some business with the commercial side of things. They are now in the residential world. Jamie and his team do incredible work. Not Jamie on here, but they do incredible work. And here's the thing: from what they tell me, you guys know I'm not really good at this stuff. From what they tell me, you should, in order for the longevity of your systems to go as far as they can, have your system serviced and looked at on a consistent basis. And they're going to give you $17 off a service agreement by mentioning our podcast. So if you call them, their phone number is 919-568-3212. That's 568-3212. If you mention the Section 17 podcast, they will give you $17 off your service agreement. And so really cool. We thank our new friends / old friends at Hometown Air. Brian, I think we made it through.
We did make it through, and we've still got to hear from Jamie and yourself about how y'all are feeling. I mean, I hope you're feeling a little bit more excited than Scott was. I mean, you have any tunes to sing for us? I mean, honestly, the Manny Diaz era is about to begin. We've seen a lot. I think it's a different feel coming into this season than it was 2 years ago when Mike Elko was coming in as Duke's head coach. Know what the Manny has history-wise as far as coaching goes, as far as being the defensive coordinator, but the excitement level is in the air, not only on the field, but off the field, because we got a big, beautiful deck that is being erected currently. Yep. Trying to get Jamie already.
Here we go.
Yep. But Jamie, you're unmuted, man. How are you feeling heading into Friday night?
I don't know. I feel great. Mostly. I mean, we ready. We ready. No, I'm just, no. I feel really excited. I mean, it's football season. We got ACC got off to a bang out there in Dublin, Ireland. Not crying for FSU. A bunch of losers, man. They've been crying all year, wanting to get out of the ACC, and then they get their they get their asses didn't get their asses kicked, but Georgia Tech held their own out there and beat them, upset them after a lot of people saying FSU was going to be the prohibitive favorite. But anyways, back to Duke. I got off on another game there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what we got against Elon. Looking forward to watching the battle in the trenches specifically, but we'll get into that later. Just looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing people, that we haven't seen since last year, parents, fans. And then I am looking forward to seeing, I know we're joking about the Devil's Deck, and I think we have a couple more jokes in the future of this episode about that. But I am looking forward to seeing how that goes, and the whole in-game hosting and the DJs and all that good stuff, all the new stuff that Duke's got. And then, of course, on the field, Duke released the 2 Deep today, earlier today, and just, some young guys that seem like they're going to get some rotational playing time, and can't wait. I just can't wait to see this product. I know Coach Diaz has only been here, 8 months, 9 months, but it feels like he's been here a long time. Everything that's gone on this offseason, and so I know he's ready. Let's just put the guys out there on the field and let's go play some football.
Yeah, watching the ACC games this weekend, Georgia Tech upsetting FSU, SMU almost losing to Nevada. Thanks, Vegas. That's all I'll say. But just having the atmosphere back. We know we are close to fall, fellas. Last weekend, I should say, was just a mere taste of what we should be getting this weekend, as we've got some key matchups. But we're back and better than ever. We're going to be going through our usual stuff. We've got Tell of the Tape later. Scott's going to be bringing This Week in Blue Devil history. Of course, the mailbag. We've got tons of questions. We actually had to cut some this week. So if we don't get to your questions, folks, never fear. There's always next week. And I got to sit down with someone from the ACC Network. I teased it last week, but it was a good one. Scott, wait, what are you doing? See? Gosh, this episode's off the rails
There's
already.
only 2 C's.
ACCC.
CC. Okay.
Okay. Someone take over for me, please. It's been a long day. We were talking about that before we recorded. But no, had a chance to sit down with Wes Durham. We tried to get him on last year, but a certain someone decided in the middle of the night they needed to go to College Station. So we had to readjust our plans. But Wes was, able to come on. We actually talked a lot more things ACC. We still talked about the Duke Elon game coming up. And as always, we had our fill in the blanks. But it was a good conversation. Here's my interview with Wes Durham. Happy to be joined now by Wes Durham of the ACC Network. Wes is going to be double dipping this weekend as he'll be in Raleigh for Thursday night's game against NC State and then heading to Atlanta for the Georgia Tech-Georgia State game. Wes, you're a busy man as we get close to the start of week 1, but we appreciate your time and coming on to the Section 17 podcast.
Brian, thanks. I think we tried to do this one other time, and you guys went through a coaching change, so I'm glad we're able to do it this year. How's that?
Perfect. Let's get you early than late. You never know what could happen.
That's exactly right.
All right, so icebreaker. What is tougher, a fighting Phoenix or a fighting Christian?
Oh, man, are you kidding me? Fighting Christian, there's no doubt. I mean, when I was there, when I graduated from Elon, we were fighting Christians. We were NAIA. We were playing Carson Newman. Every game was we had one. I did radio there 4 years, football, basketball. My 4 years of college, I did 150 games. It was unbelievable. It was a great experience. And we only had one flight in 4 years. And that was my senior year. We opened the season playing, believe it or not, UCF.
Oh, wow.
In the Florida Citrus Bowl in September of 1987, we opened against UCF in the Florida Citrus Bowl. And Mike Kruzek, who later became the head coach, was the offensive coordinator. They had a quarterback named Darren Slack. That was the only time Elon ever took a flight in my 4 years. Everything else was a drivable game. So most of them, believe it or not, in college when I was doing radio, most of the games, we'd leave campus Saturday morning, drive to the game, do the game, and drive back.
Wow.
All in one day. We stayed overnight, I think, when we played Presbyterian, maybe Newberry, but that was it. Maybe Carson Newman in East Tennessee, we stayed overnight. But fighting Christians, yeah. When they changed the nickname, I got to be honest with you, a lot of old heads weren't happy. And in fact, some still to this day, and there's a producer, the college baseball producer, coordinating producer for college baseball at ESPN, Scott Gustafson, is an Elon grad. And he will gladly, proudly tell you he was in the final class of Fighting Christians.
And folks, as you continue to watch this episode, did you know might have something to do with the Fighting Christian mascot? All right, Wes. So we had a pretty crazy weekend this past weekend. Not much football, but the football that we did see was pretty crazy. Georgia Tech defeats FSU in Dublin, Ireland.
Right.
And then you had Southern Methodist go wire to wire with Nevada. A lot of people had no idea that was going to happen. So in your mind, what was the most surprising out of those two games? GT upsetting Florida State or Southern Methodist having trouble with Nevada?
Probably Southern Methodist having hard time with Nevada. I really thought SMU would roll there. And I saw a lot of things. I mean, I know Coach Choate's first year at Nevada. Look, Rhett Lashley's got way too many weapons to commit that many unforced errors in the first half, first of all. And I was surprised. I didn't think Preston Stone looked very good early. Kevin Jennings came in. They were okay. But that game should have never gotten to the fourth quarter where it was, just given the climate of the way SMU has played. And to be honest with you, Brian, it gives me a little pause for concern now about SMU. Now, it's early, okay? And I'm going to say that about Georgia Tech. It's early. It's early for Florida State. It's early for Georgia Tech. After this weekend's over, it'll be early for everybody else that plays. But nonetheless, first impressions do create that, and it pushes a standard up or down to what we think you or your team might be. But Georgia Tech, I was surprised let's say this. I was surprised that Georgia Tech won the game the way they won the game. I thought Georgia Tech could win the game. I thought Haynes King would have to throw for 200. Thought Eric Singleton would have to have a big game. I thought there would have to be some Florida State turnovers. There weren't any of those. Georgia Tech ran the ball. And I thought the real key to the game was, could they run the ball and could they stop Florida State's run game? And I haven't gone to do the math on this yet for our game on Saturday night, but if you go back and take away the run game of Florida State's opening drive, I'm not sure they had 70 yards the rest of the game on the ground. So, again, I haven't done the math on it yet, but I think Georgia Tech did a really good job. Tyler Santucci deserves a lot of credit. The guy who's not getting as much credit because he's not the defensive coordinator, but you will know, is Jess Simpson. Their defensive line's improved because Jess Simpson's in residence in Atlanta. That's why they're there. I mean, that's those two guys joining Brent Key for the work they did the last couple of years in Durham with Mike Elko. That's the reason you're starting to see, I think, the quick progress and quick turnaround. Those two guys that were with Duke a year ago, they know how to do it, and I think that's an encouraging sign for Brent Key's second team for sure.
Yeah, that Week 6 matchup for Duke is not looking favorable.
Yeah,
now
and that's hard. You know, I mean, that's hard. That's just the way and that creates a lot of uncomfortable stuff. Like, you know, look, I'm in Raleigh Thursday night. Jordan Waters, one of his best games was against NC State last year. We're going to talk about that Thursday night.
Yep.
And now he's going to run the rock for NC State, and he's the guy. I mean, he's one of three guys they've got, but he's going to be the guy. And you know, that's just a weird thing that we didn't have that issue here for a long, long time in college football and basketball, and now we do. So, you know, but that's just the kind of the, oh yeah, okay. You got to kind of move along, I guess.
Well, speaking of Thursday night, the other matchup that is in the ACC is Chapel Hill College, as we like to call them, heading north to Minnesota to take on the Golden Gophers. And Wes, you know, this is something I don't remember ever seeing out of Mac Brown, being so secretive leading into a season opener. You know, why do you think that is? Is it just with all the changes that you had just mentioned with transfer portals and incoming freshmen? Because usually you see a team, they want to display their incoming transfers and freshmen, but with Mac, it's kind of been hush hush, don't say anything.
Yeah,
just see what happens week 1.
Well, he's taking advantage of PJ Fleck. That's what's happening. PJ Fleck wants to lay low about his depth chart, and Mac's going to do the same. I mean, so PJ Fleck's not going to release a depth chart, and that's fine. Some coaches don't want to do that in week 1. I mean, I've had that happen in years past where, you know, by the time we get to the production meeting, they'll give us a little bit, because the one thing we don't want to do, nor would anybody else who's got the right mindset, you don't want to embarrass yourself or embarrass the other school for the information they're not willing to provide you a little bit, right?
Yep.
So in PJ Fleck's situation, I'm sure Jason Benetti, who's doing the game for Fox, will eventually get a depth chart from Minnesota, and he'll get one from Carolina, and they'll have an idea of it. But publicly, you know, Minnesota tells me they've got enough changes coming on now that maybe, you know, Fleck wants to hold it, and I'm going to guess that Carolina's going to look a little different. You know, they are kind of inverted to what they have been the last couple of years with Drake May and certainly Sam Howell maybe before that. And while I think Max Johnson may play, Connor Harrell may play, at the end of the day, they've got one of the best running backs in the country. So I think that's going to be one of the interesting parts of who Carolina's playing personality will be. Minnesota, for me, I mean, they were 6-7 a year ago. They're an interesting football team. I had them a couple of years ago in a bowl game. And I like their team, and I like what Fleck has done, but that's a whole new conference now. Yep. You bring those 4 schools from the West Coast, and all of a sudden, you know, they play at Michigan and USC in back-to-back weeks, and I don't think they play anybody from the West Coast. I mean, I don't play Oregon or Washington this year, but I look at those Big Ten teams, and that's a stronger cup of coffee than what the ACC is getting ready to go through with Stanford and Cal and certainly SMU coming in this league.
So speaking of new teams, SMU, Stanford, Cal, as you stated, they have come in. So looking ahead to this season, give me an ACC team that you think will live up to the preseason hype.
Of the 3 or just whole?
Total. Sorry, total.
I can't go through the romance with Miami again. I just refuse to do it. Let's see. I think Clemson's going to be good. I was at Clemson's road trip. I think Clemson being second in the league, they're going to be 1 or 2.
Is it because you think they've cleaned up some of their issues from last year?
Yeah, I do. I think Garrett Riley's second year. I think he understands Klubnik. I think, you know, like we were just talking about Georgia Tech with a certain position coach being hired and Jess Simpson. I think Matt Luke coaching the offensive line at Georgia Tech or at Clemson is a major improvement. That's a major upgrade. I did their Gator Bowl against Kentucky, and I thought Kentucky was the more physical team. And Clemson ran the ball on them in the fourth quarter with Phil Maffa. And I think they don't feel this obligation now with Shipley Maffa. I think that's going to make a big difference, to be honest with you. I think it's Phil Maffa's run game. I think it's Matt Luke. And Klubnik is comfortable with Jake Brenningstool. I think defensively they're going to be really good too. I think Peter Woods looked terrific in the practices we saw last week doing the ACC road trip. So I would say Clemson. Today, I Clemson, it was said Saturday morning on the game day show. I think Clemson's coming back. And Dabo's got receipts, you know. I mean, and I get it. I mean, what you guys did Labor Day night last year was something that was you know, that embarrassed Clemson, and they had to recover from it. And I'm not sure they did until the end. But what Duke did last year on Labor Day night to start the year really kind of changed the dynamic nationally of what we think of Clemson. And I had the overtime loss at Miami, and we're going to have them in week 2. Brian, we're going to have them against Appalachian State. And I'm excited to see kind of whether they win or lose Saturday, what that game looks like for Clemson. I just think they're kind of returning to form. Now, returning to form doesn't mean national championship CFP, but I think they're going to be really good. And I think they're going to be I say CFP like Final Four. They could make the CFP as one of the 2 or 3 ACC teams, I think.
Well, and it's funny because we talked about this last year leading up to the Clemson game. Had it not been the first game of the year, it could have been a completely different outcome in Wallace Wade if you had Clemson coming in 5, 6, 7 games into the season playing Mike Elko's team. Could have still been a win for Duke, but as you stated, new offensive coordinator, a lot of changes were going through. I don't think they were quite yet set in those ways, and you could see it, and Duke came out on top because of that.
And 2 things carried over from the previous year to last year. Remember, they weren't great in the red zone in 22, right?
Right. Yep.
And it carried over to the opening game of 23. I mean, they gave the ball, 3 times that night in the red zone, it felt like.
Yeah.
The second thing is that while Klubnik was the MVP of the championship game against Carolina and Charlotte, you know, he got away with throwing deep balls into Carolina's secondary to get a lot of that stats. And I'm not blaming Cade for that. He wasn't very good against Oklahoma, though. I think that's who they played in the Orange Bowl, right?
Believe so, yeah. If memory serves correctly.
Yeah, so they played like Oklahoma, and that didn't go well. Right? So they were still kind of mentally, even though they'd won the ACC and deservedly so, they had beaten, you know, a pretty good Louisville team, things like that. There was still this transient phase going on in Clemson, offensive coordinator coming in, all these other things. And I think they shook that about the midway point of last year. And it's really going to be interesting to watch them against Georgia on Saturday. I think that game's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Should be an exciting one for sure. Before we get to our fill in the blank section of this interview, give me a sleeper that many people might not think about who could perform better than expectations.
Guess I can't say Georgia Tech now, right?
No, I don't think anyone can after that performance.
I still think their schedule's really hard. I'm going to go Cal. I'll go Cal. Okay. This is where I talk about how good a coach I think Justin Wilcox is. I think he's done a really good job there. And I think they're the kind of team, you know, they're going to go to Auburn in week 2. They get San Diego State at home in week 3, and then they go to Tallahassee, right? They get a bye week, and then Miami comes out there. Then they go to Pitt. If the coast-to-coast travel doesn't get them, I think Jaden Ott is the best NFL prospect on offense in this league right now. I think he's terrific running back. I really like the young linebacker, Ula Ave, who was the Pac-12 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Craig Woodson is a pretty good safety, and their offensive line seems to be kind of tenable, if you will, for what they want to do. This Rodgers and Mendoza thing at quarterback doesn't faze me much because Wilcox has done this before. So for me, I would say Cal would be the one. I think Cal could be in the front 5 by the time we're done. Back end, when you look at the back end, right, we talked about the break in the schedule between Florida State and Miami. Their last month is at Wake, Syracuse at home, Stanford at home, and at SMU.
Okay, then. So, folks, if you haven't filled out your predictions, season prediction form yet, listen to Wes Durham. He's saying Cal top 5. That could be.
Possibly.
I know. Hey, someone's got to win this prediction.
We got
contest.
17. We got 17 schools. I mean, it's like a lottery. I mean, we got to find which team's the Powerball, for the heaven's sakes. I mean, it's
just have them keep spinning around until it stops.
I mean, for somebody who does a lot of game prep on 5x8 cards, Brian, you wouldn't believe the transits I've gone into to go, how am I going to get 17 schools on a card? So, but that's where we are. So,
hey, I completely understand. All right, looking ahead now to Saturday night's matchup in Wallace Wade Stadium, 7:30
Friday night. Friday night.
See, I've already messed up. We're not even 1 weekend. Dad, gummit. Yellow flag for me on the field. Friday night kickoff, 7:30 on the ACC Network. As I stated, we always do some fill in the blanks before we finish up the interview. So, first one is the one area that this Duke team can perform well on Friday night and put some of the naysayers to bed is?
I think throwing the football. I think throwing the football. Because you clearly have somebody who can throw the football starting at quarterback. I mean, he might be able to throw it a mile, and I'm not kidding. Malik Murphy may have the biggest arm in this league, bar none. In terms of when it comes out of his hand and how it gets on receivers, I think throwing the football. And because you've got guys, I mean, I think Dalmolin coming back to football is really critical.
Yep.
Samir Hagans, I think Jordan Moore, again, maybe the most versatile utility guy in the league in terms of impact. I don't think there's a lot of difference between like KC Concepcion at NC State and what Jordan Moore at Duke is. I just think they're two different kinds of players and their schools use them in different ways. I think throwing the football. I think because of the questions and concerns I would have about the offensive line as the season evolves.
Right.
I think if you're going to put the naysayers to bed, you got to throw the football and throw it effectively. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're pretty good at it.
Okay. On the flip side of the ball, tell me a player that could turn heads for Elon on Friday night.
Well, there's two. On defense, the Bandit safety is one of the best players in FCS, and that's Caleb Curtin. He's a terrific player. He had a pick 6 last year at Wake Forest. I mean, he's a legitimate FBS player who plays at an FCS school. And then the battery they have in the throw game is really interesting. Matthew Downing is a well-traveled quarterback. Dave Archer and I likes to say on these Falcons broadcasts, Brian, that some of these quarterbacks now have circuitous journeys to success, right?
Yeah.
Matthew Downing would fall in the circuitous journey to success category. But Chandler Brayboy from down at Purnell Sweat High School is one of those guys who has come to Elon. And Tony Trisciani is a really good football coach. And he and his staff, Drew Fulmer, their offensive coordinator, they have put together plans to get Chandler Brayboy the football in space. And they do a really good job. And I'm sure Manny and his staff have spent a lot of time worried about where like number 4 lines up and how they get the ball to him. Elon had a terrific run game the last couple of years with a young man named Jalen Hampton. They're going to need the run game to be just as good with Rashawn Baker, who's a transfer from Bucknell at the running back spot. If they can run the football, Chandler Brayboy then kind of create mismatches. And he's a quality player. He would be a very good player in FBS. But I think Elon's concerns have got to be pass rush, stopping the run. They've had 1 or 2 injuries, I think, in camp. But on the whole, I think you're talking about it's a well thought of FCS team and a team that I think can finish in the top half of the CAA. And it's a really good challenge for Manny and his club, I think, Friday night.
All right. I got to ask you this question because your dad is UNC royalty. Hey, even Duke fans will admit your dad had his place in the triangle, but Duke can regain the victory bell back from UNC for the first time since 2018 if
the offensive line improves week to week. I think that's number one. The game is earlier this year than it's been the previous couple of years. Roddy and I did it 2 years ago. Tim and I did the game last year. and it was in October, as I recall, right? And this year it's late September, I think.
Yeah, because we saw you before the game.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was October. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say this: the offensive line needs to, and that's going to be a common theme for the remainder of the fall for Duke, is
Mhm.
limit the injuries and the offensive line continue to improve. If that happens, I think the offense will settle in. Defensively, I think you've got enough players on that side of the ball that you can be really pretty good. I'm a huge Stinson guy. I'm a huge Rivers guy. I think those are really good players. Trey Freeman is one of the more underrated players, I think, in the ACC period. And I'm excited to kind of see where he can go. VJ Anthony, I think, is off to a really good start and is only going to get better. So for me, you win the victory bell if your offensive line continues to improve, because I think all the skill pieces, I've talked about Dalmolin, Jordan Moore, golly, Eli Panko's back. What year is this? 6, 7 for Panko, it feels
6.
like.
Mhm.
I mean, so you've got all the other things. It really comes down to the basic elements of line play. And I think if your line continues to improve, you're going to be in good shape.
Take it a step further. Duke can get to a bowl game in Manny Diaz's first year as head coach if.
The hard problem with Duke is you're going to have to go 4-0 to start. If you go 4-0 to start, I like your chances to win 2 of the rest of them, because from mid-October on, I'm not envious.
Yeah.
I mean, your last 6 games in 7 weeks, you're probably playing 5 bowl teams for sure. You're probably going to play 3 ranked teams.
Yeah, we agree.
Florida has the hardest stretch to finish a college football season this year. Florida does. Duke's is in the top 10.
Wow.
I mean, when you talk about playing Florida State off a bye, SMU at Miami, in Raleigh, bye week, Virginia Tech and Durham off a bye, and then at Wake Forest. And Dave Clawson's teams don't have 2 bad years in a row.
Yeah. And Georgia Tech has a bye before Duke heads down to Atlanta, if I remember correctly. So
that is correct.
It is going to be a tough slate for the Blue Devils heading into October. Well, before I let you go, I would be remiss not to ask you about this. As I stated earlier, you are the son of Woody Durham,
right?
Well-known play-by-play radio analyst for UNC from 1971 to 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Any favorite memories from football season's time of your dad from years ago?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Well, Brian, I got into this business in part because of my dad, obviously. I saw how much he loved doing it, and the preparation process is one of the things that kind of led me to this, right? Because a lot of us, not all of us, are frustrated athletes because our playing careers ended before we thought they should, or maybe deserved. In my case, I was 14 years old, and that's when I started standing behind my dad in the Keenan press box. So the Duke Carolina game for me in football, as much as the ones I've been blessed to do in basketball, the Duke Carolina games in football for me conjure up great memories, both for Carolina and for Duke. I was at the 82 game at Wallace Wade Stadium when Duke won late on the touchdown. I was at the Amos Lawrence game, when Carolina made the great comeback in the fourth quarter to win at Keenan. Not to mention the last 2 that I've been able to do on TV that have both been thrills. I mean, no quarterback in the country went toe-to-toe with Drake May better than Grayson Loftus did last year in Chapel Hill.
Yep.
And to think Grayson Loftus did that and just knuckled down and made throws it was an awesome game. I mean, Tim Hasselback, who's no longer working with us on the network, but still with ESPN, Tim and I were talking about that game a month ago and just how good Loftus was. In fact, he was showing some of his kids at Innsworth now, where he's coaching in Nashville, tape of the game. I think that those are important memories to all of us who grew up around the ACC and support, in particular, football in that league. So there for sure. My dad, he was not doing the games when Don McCauley played, but my dad was at Don McCauley's last game. The Carolina win, McCauley had 5 touchdowns and they beat Duke in Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I know from history about the games that, had the Justice era games at Carolina, the Ace Parker games at Duke. One of the cool people that I had the chance to get to know as I got older was Red Wilson, because before he became the head coach at Duke, Red Wilson was the head coach at Elon. And when I was in school at Elon, I'd see Coach Wilson from time to time. And it was cool to be able to talk to him about Carolina Duke games and how fondly he still remembered his days at Duke. And my brother graduated 8 years behind me at Elon and still works there. And it's amazing, until Coach Wilson's health really declined late in life, he and my brother would visit a couple times a year, and they'd end up invariably talking about Duke Carolina games. So I see that game totally different, probably outside of other people in the media. I know the history of the Duke Carolina football game as much as I know the history of the Duke Carolina basketball game. So for me, it's been real special to be part of it.
Yeah, the four of us who do this podcast, we still think that the Duke Carolina game should be a season finale, but the powers to be,
yep,
they have other thoughts when that.
Let me just say this: I'm glad Duke and State are playing again.
Yes,
and I'll just say that was one of the great crimes of expansion that should have never happened. And look, I've talked to ADs on and off the record about it, and I'll just say this: the fact that they broke up the Big Four schools from playing each other during the course of the year, that should have never happened. It's too important to the economy of the state. It's too important to the schools themselves. And I mean, it was just ridiculous that Wake and Carolina had to schedule a non-conference series. That was insane. But it's what happened, and hopefully in the 17-team ACC for football, we can, keep that ship going now, where, at least we get all these teams played up, as they say.
Well, Wes, it's been great talking with you. Thank you that we could get you on, because I know last year, as you stated, we tried so hard, and then of course with the breaking news, we just had to change our mindset. So, but hey, we're looking forward to it. Safe travels to Raleigh for the game Thursday night. We hope to talk with you soon.
Brian, thank you. Guys, have a great fall.
And again, I want to thank Wes for coming on. We've been wanting to talk with him. Josh and I actually met him at the UNC game last year. Very easy to come up to, talk with us like he knew us for ages. Very knowledgeable. For those of you who might have fast forwarded through the interview, he is the son of former Chapel Hill College play-by-play man Woody Durham. And I think I speak for all of us when we say Woody was well respected, even though he called for the other team. It was him and Bob Harris for the longest of time. So it was good to have Wes on. So again, Wes, we appreciate you coming on, and maybe we'll have you on in the future.
Yeah, awesome, Brian. Thank you for doing that as well. We're about to head into our mailbag, but that reminds us that we do have an additional sponsor. This is our Iron D level sponsor, El Rodeo Mexican Restaurant on North Duke Street. It is, if you're an old school Durhamite, that's North Duke Mall, right there at the end of North Duke Mall. If you didn't have that on your bingo card to get talked about on this episode, but North Duke Mall there, El Rodeo Mexican Restaurant, they do an incredible job. They have great food, a great environment. Whether you're there for drinks or for food, it's great. If you have a big party, they do have a room there that can seat 25 or more people privately there, and they'll take care of you. And so, yeah, if you're there, mention Section 17. Like I said, I'm not sure if that'll mean anything to the waitress, but mention it to them. And hit up El Rodeo on North Duke Street. Thank you to those guys. Jamie, we ready, man? Let's do this.
Well, that was an impressive North Duke Mall reference.
Thank you.
That was solid. That was solid. You don't hear North Duke Mall every day.
Used to go to the baseball card shop there in North Duke Mall back in the day.
Or in the Blockbuster. There was the Blockbuster. Yeah. The Roses.
Shout
when
out
I was a kid.
Blockbuster, Brian.
I actually worked there a couple of times with old Boss Goss.
See? Hey, Jamie, the Roses is still there, buddy.
Is it still there?
It's still there.
Sure is. I used to go there and buy toys when I was a kid.
But that was a few minutes ago. I mean, a few.
But that's, anyways, we're going to get to the questions now. And we're coming out swinging with at the Duke of not Cupa. It's not Cupa. I've been pronouncing it wrong this entire time. It's actually QP. And he says, this is a great question. Now that it looks like the Devil's deck is basically finished, Some are saying Duke has the biggest dick in the triangle, but my wife is unconvinced. UNC showed off its dick, and she just laughed at how puny it is. But she hasn't seen all of Duke's. Can you send my wife some more dick pics?
I don't know how to. Oh man, that may have been the best question we've ever gotten on this podcast.
Hey, can't top that. That'll do it for this episode.
Lord have
And
mercy.
the only thing I have to say is, Jamie, I think the clearest picture that he could send his wife would be Mark Watson. Mark Watson's. He posted one earlier today, and so if you hit at Blue Devil Nation on Twitter, he can take care of you.
Dear Lord.
So,
dear Lord.
What have we done?
By the way, shout out to the Duke, though.
Lord.
He hooked the podcast up with a special gift. We're not going to say what it is. This shit was a really nice gift. We just don't know how we're going to use it yet. And it might find its way into some sort of like giveaway or we may just use it for ourselves. We're not really sure. But he hooked us up. So, loyal listener and gifted question writer.
And if you haven't seen UNC's try at a deck, that is one tiny deck, and bless their hearts because they are trying anything and everything to enhance their game day experience.
Oh, Lord. And Keenan Stadium's a shithole, so. Oops. I was not supposed to say that.
Well, and what's funny about it is that the way the camera angles, some of the camera angles for that UNC's was, you could see behind it was like this section of like 2 seats that went all up. So there's like a section in Keenan that literally there's 2 seats, one by one, and it goes all the way up. Like it's weird, dude.
Have you seen the guy that goes to various stadiums and finds the obscured views and just sits there? I can expect him to be at Keenan this year at some point in those seats to show that you can't see the field.
All right, Jamie, we're ready now. Are you ready?
All right. Some more questions here. I'm gonna put a couple here together and kind of talk through it. So at Big Papa RV says, what is worse, a mixed berry Pop-Tarts or Elon's mascot? And then at Tired Old Man 1017, same as in same. I'm tired old man too. So
did you send yourself a question?
At Tired Old Man. Yeah. What Elon mascot is better, the Phoenix or the Fighting Christians? Brian, you got anything on that?
Did you know is all I'm going to say. I mentioned it with talking with Wes, but you can't. I mean, it's a contradiction, right? Christians don't fight. Maybe verbal.
Look back for history, dude. Like Christians have fought pretty well.
Yeah, but I mean, we ain't got no Goliaths walking around here, so
it's true.
Just saying.
I mean, I love the Fighting Christians. It's like, and the other one like this, the anomaly is the Demon Deacons. It's so good. It's such a good name if you really think about it. Such a good name.
And at Big Papa RV had also put a picture. Obviously, y'all can't see it, but put a picture with his tweet, and it was a pretty disturbing mascot. Like I was slightly disturbing, like kind of scary-ish. Like
the Phoenix.
I think it was the Phoenix. Yeah.
Have you seen the Fighting Christian? I'll send it. It's pretty interesting how he looks from years ago.
But to answer Big Papa's question, I'll take the Pop-Tart, man. I'm Team Pop-Tarts.
Same, Jamie. Don't you unmute? We are trying to secure sponsorship, and you're not helping.
That's a scary bird. That's all I'm got to say. So maybe I'd take the Pop-Tart. Scott Cornelius off of Facebook. Well, let me go with the question here first. Nathaniel Miller off of Facebook. Since we know that Murphy is QB1 now, what is your prediction against Elon and the type of game he will have? And there's some similar questions, which leads me to the Scott Cornelius question, which is assuming we are winning comfortably at the end of the third. Do you think Loftus plays in the fourth quarter, or does Murphy finish the game? And at Cremroy 12 also wanted to ask how long Murphy will play. It all depends, right? I mean, it depends if we're blowing Elon out. I mean, obviously you want to get Murphy out of the game.
Well, Manny's press conference today, he was pretty set and firm about playing one quarterback as much as he could. So, I mean, in a perfect world, yes, we would love to see everyone play Friday night, Duke so comfortably that it doesn't matter. But, it's going to be interesting to see how it starts out and how things go and how the nerves are there as the season begins for everybody, especially, with the O-line fan base. And we're all excited to see Murphy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how it goes. I mean, obviously, we're not going to flush the season down the toilet if they don't get a touchdown the first drive. Well, at least most of us won't. But,
A shout out, by the way. I know it's probably not a question. So Scott mentioned the O-line. Shout out Caleb Creams, grad transfer. I guess it's a grad transfer coming in and getting the start. So we knew 4 of the starters, and we weren't really sure who that 5th starter would be. And so 2 came out, and that was the first thing I looked at was the O-line. And shout out to Caleb.
Isn't he from Elon?
I think he is. Transferred from the Phoenix.
Yeah.
So Michael Martino wanted to know if I believed in Malik as much as Joe Hendry, which is, to Josh, that's a professional wrestler. So, yeah.
I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Joe Hendry, he's a wrestler.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
So,
yeah,
It's been a while since I've seen 2 guys in that little of a tire rolling around on the floor with each other.
It's not been that long for me. Like,
Right.
literally, like probably last night. I mean, I was watching WWE Network last night, like some old stuff.
Sure, Jamie. Sure,
folks.
We're going off the rails of a crazy train.
Folks, this is week 1. We promise we will be better next week.
Oh, jeez.
Jamie was like, "Never mind. I got to be good. I can't say that. I'm sorry." What
All
came
right.
to my mind there was going to make us put it explicit on the podcast. Can't be doing that.
All right, I thought this was a good question. At Blade for Duke, and he said this should have been a summer question, but he's wanted to know if we have any idea if Feely is involved with transfers and their workout routines prior to their arrival on campus. He said, curious since many along the O-line didn't get here until June.
So if you haven't watched our YouTube video with David Feely, he actually talked about this a little bit with incoming transfers and freshmen. They go to one of the various physical therapists that they have here at Duke to see where they're at physically and what their body can endure and what muscles need to catch up with other muscles. So I'm going to say, and I feel 95% sure about this, that they have to wait till the player comes in, goes through a physical evaluation, then Feely can make a workout program to help get them to where they want to be. Unmute.
Anybody else? Nothing. All right. Peter Dodge, our guy Peter. We can't wait to see him this season. I feel the offensive playbook will be opened up enough to beat an FCS team. I doubt we'll see anything more than vanilla, though. For us closer to the program, do you think we'll see anything more than just vanilla? I don't know if you want to speak to that, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, once again, no inside intel here, but I mean, I think that Duke wants to come out and make a statement. That's my opinion. I think that Duke has seen the underrated. They feel like they've been underrated by many media outlets and national media and whatnot. And also, this is Jonathan Brewer's first game as the sole offensive coordinator in his career. This is Malik Murphy coming out party. I don't think Duke's going to hold back. Now, they may not run like trick plays, or they may not there may be a couple of things they keep in their bag for sure. But I don't think Duke is going to come out necessarily and go vanilla. I think Duke is going to come out. I think they're going to try to score as quickly as they can, as explosively as they can, and show this offense off. That's my opinion. That's what I hope, at least. I hope we don't play too conservatively. If we play conservatively, it will go against everything that Jonathan Brewer has been teaching and preaching since he got to Durham.
And I think you got to treat Elon with some respect too, because they got several returning starters, right? They took Wake down to basically to the wire last year, gave Wake a scare, and I think they had done that to Vanderbilt maybe the previous year, or at some point they took Vanderbilt and had a nice game with them too. So, I mean, you don't want to. You want to treat Elon as if you're playing a team that could beat you, and in a perfect world, you're winning by a lot in the fourth quarter, right? And you sit starters, and you bring in Grayson Loftus, you bring in other guys. But do you want to add anything, Scott?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder, A, how many plays they will script, and B, do they script plays? Because it'll be interesting to see. Many people in the past, NFL everywhere, first 15. So I'm interested to see if they follow that thought process. Which, I mean, we may never know the answer, but it'd be interesting to see what those 15 are, if they are going to do that, and how they start the game.
And then once again, I cannot overstate the mic, the in-ear mic now that the quarterbacks have. Will that adjust anything? And of course, also the defense has it as well. But anyway, I think that will all play into how the game is going to flow Friday night.
All right, at FishFry02, our guy JD, what is one area that we're going to be paying close attention to in this game? He said because there's a lot of uncertainty. And I'll start since I'm unmuted, and we may have the same answer, we may have some differing answers. For me, it's the trenches, it's the offensive line, it's the defensive line. You win ball games in the trenches, so it starts there for me. And and Malik and the wide receivers. I could name the entire team, but what do you guys think?
Yes. No, I mean, I've been to a couple practices this fall, and the O-line is the question, because that is going to determine whether or not Malik has time to go through his progressions and make the throws that we know he can make. If he doesn't have that time, he's going to be a scrambling quarterback, which is not what he wants. It's not what we want, because as we saw last year with Riley Leonard, Riley got injured trying to scramble against Notre Dame. That's right?
It was a weird. He was trying to throw a bomb, and he tried to buy more time, and then it collapsed. Yep.
So if he can be protected against Elon, again, I get it. Elon's an FCS school, but you got to start somewhere. Then next week you're going to be at Northwestern. That's when the real test comes into play. But if these guys can get their timing down and their protections down against Elon, it should fare better at Northwestern, because Northwestern, as we stated, is a very good team.
I would say I'm interested to see the special teams. Obviously, we know that, in our opinions, we have the best field goal kicker in the country, in the Todd father.
That's right.
But he's also now the kickoff specialist. We have a new punter. And then just looking at the depth chart, as far as the return men for kickoffs, is Peyton Jones and Star Thomas. Then for punts, Keyshawn Brown is starting, and then Samir Higgins is the backup. So I'm interested to see how those two guys, especially in the punt return game, how well they do. Things have not been the greatest in the world in the punt return game, in our opinions, in the past. So it'd be interesting to see how these guys are.
Yeah, Jamie, I'm with you. Trenches.
Yeah, so trenches are where you win ball games. At Levi Haynes 10, our guy Levi, we met him a couple of years ago. One of the first few fans we met at a ball game. He came by and saw us. With the new deck and other attractions, do we think that we will see a difference from day one in the attendance?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm glad Levi asked that. Shout out Levi, by the way. It's been a while, brother. Good to have you back. So I think Duke has some stuff going against it for this first game. It's Labor Day weekend. It's Friday night. So and I know around here it's not like high school football is like a major draw, but it is a draw in some ways. So you got that working against you and Labor Day weekend working against you. So I don't know if we'll be able to tell in this week, but I will say this. I will be very interested, if the weather is nice, to see what those next couple home games look like. The UConn game, obviously the UNC game. That one's going to be packed out. That will be interesting. So, I mean, Duke is banking on this making a difference. And and who comes to games, how many people show up, how many people stay throughout the game. I will say that.
The wild card is there is a chance of rain Friday night. So could deter some folks if the rains start coming down. But again, first game of the season. I'd be interested, to Josh's point, to see how UConn looks if Duke goes in there 2-0, especially the UNC game if Duke goes in there 4-0. But, something was broke. They're trying to fix it. Our personal opinions. Yes, we lost our seats, but if it means a better atmosphere for everyone, we can suck it up and be big boys.
All right. One more question, and we'll move on. Timothy Parton. He asked, does the results of the FSU versus Georgia Tech game give confidence to me? He's talking about my upset pick of FSU when they come to Wallace Wade. When I did that in the predictions episode, I was wondering. He also says, what do you think of that game? What do you think that game tells us about either of those ACC squads? And he says Josh putting Georgia Tech up in the top 5 of the ACC is looking pretty good so far. It gives me confidence in my upset
It
pick.
sure does. Makes me look pretty good so far, Timothy. Thank you for saying that, brother.
Gives me great confidence in my upset pick. I mean, DJU, he kind of sucks, doesn't he?
I mean, at the end, so in a nutshell, you guys' opinion, does this tell us more about Georgia Tech and them being good, or is this Florida State and they suck? Is that which one is it? Do you think?
No, I mean, I was just joking basically about DJU, but like I think it says way more about Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech looked really good. And speaking of the trenches, did they not look really good on both the offensive line and the defensive side of the ball? So, I mean, and that what was the quarterback's name again?
Haynes King.
Haynes King. He reminded me so much of Riley Leonard. Like
Yeah,
I was like,
a left-handed Riley Leonard.
This kid looks like what Riley was looking like at Duke in Elko's first year. And
he was out there outrunning guys. He was juking DNs and leaving them in the dust. And that's how he picked up 75 yards or 85 yards rushing and the 2 touchdowns, because they couldn't stop him. Kind of to Jamie's point a second ago, though, I mean, Florida State's put all their eggs in the DJU basket. And the only passes he completed were between 5 and 7 yards. And they were, I don't know. I mean, Georgia Tech is obviously a better team than we thought they'd be, and it has a lot to do with their D coordinator and their D lineman, the coach, Jess Simpson and Tyler Santucci. And, I don't know. I mean, I think Georgia Tech is going to be better than everybody thought they were. Florida State obviously has lost it. There's no way they're in a national title hunt now. No way. I don't care if they win the ACC. There's no way in the ACC title hunt. And I don't even know if they're going to be in the top 5 anymore, depending on if they play this crappy against everybody.
I liken that game to the game that we as Duke fans went through last year, Duke and Clemson, because it took Clemson half the season to find their identity. It showed that Duke was here to stay because Duke defeated what a lot of people thought was your atypical Dabo Swinney Clemson team. I think this shows that there are cracks in FSU's armor. And if DJU does not perform in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I don't even know who their backup is because there's been so much hype behind him. And if you've seen the FSU message boards over the weekend, my Lord, there are some folks on suicide watch. Like, fandom for us is like diehard Duke fans, but FSU fandom is a whole nother level. And when they lose a game to a team they're not supposed to lose to in their eyes, not looking good. But yeah,
they get racist, bro. they get racist really quickly.
They go down a road that we don't even want to look down. But yeah, Georgia Tech is the real deal, and that concerns me. And it's like I told the guys over the weekend, hey, heading into the FSU game 5-1, I'm good with it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and Scott mentioned it, but shout out to Tyler Santucci, former Duke defensive coordinator, got the raw end of the deal and everything that went down here in Durham in the offseason, and landed there. And he couldn't have been bragged on more. I mean, the announcers were talking about his defense the whole game, and he deserves that. So awesome guy. We got to know him a little bit. So really cool. Jamie, was that our last one? Awesome, bro. Hey, we want to thank everybody for giving us those questions. We may have missed some, as Brian said. Continue sending those in. We'll answer as many of them as we can. The Wes Durham interview this week went a little longer than what we typically do, so we have to cut these short. But typically, we'll try to get to as many of these questions as we possibly can. So, without further ado, we have two segments that we like to bring you. Each week during the season. So we've not done these yet because our first two episodes were kind of preseason episodes. But now that we have game week coming up, and in a little bit, you're going to hear from Brian in the tail of the tape. But before we get to the tail of the tape, Scott Medlin, the big dog, is going to bring us this week in Blue Devil history. Scott, take it away.
So for this week in Duke football history, we're going to go back to August the 30th, 2008. The David Cutcliffe era officially began against the James Madison Dukes.
Football.
Duke would end up winning that game 31-7 in front of a crowd of 32,571 fans. I would love to see that Friday night.
That had to be Human Being Day. That had to be
it was.
Free tickets.
They finally changed that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, which is the UConn game. It's not the Elon game. It's the UConn game, folks.
And gave Cutcliffe his first win as a Duke coach. Running back Clifford Harris would go for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, while junior quarterback Thad Lewis would throw for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Blue Devils, unfortunately, would only win 3 games that season and ended up 4-8. But that was a great kickoff start to the David Cutcliffe era, and that was this week in Duke football history.
We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw the ball in football.
Football.
God bless him.
Hey, that was a great. I will not forget that game, and that was a great start to the David Cutcliffe era. And I know we're not going to do this one this year, but you actually think about the first Mike Elko game was Temple, 30-0 shutout, very dominant performance. Hopefully, this Friday night, the first game of the Manny Diaz era, will be more the same. Brian has done this work now for three or 4 years solid. And what we do is Brian researches our opponent. He lets you know the history of everything that has to do with this matchup. And then he always ends it with an interesting did you know? So Brian, the tail of the tape, it's all yours, brother. Take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Tail of the tape for the Elon Phoenix out of the Coastal Athletic Association. Last year, Elon went 6-5 and did not make it to the FCS tournament. Now, Elon had last played on November 18th, 2023, defeating Hampton 51-14. So this will be their first game of the year as well. Head coach Tony Trisciani, I hope I got that right, coach. If not, I apologize, is in his 6th season with the Phoenix and has a 26-25 overall record. Now, Elon has fielded a football team every year since 1909, and the program actually won 2 NAIA national titles in 1980 and 1981. Now, overall, this is the 9th matchup all-time between Duke and Elon, with Duke leading the series 7 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie between the two all the way back in the 20s. The first matchup between the two schools took place on November 13th, 1920, with Duke winning 13-6. The two teams would play 5 more times in the 1920s before the series went dormant for 84 years. The series would be restarted in 2010 when Duke defeated Elon 41-27. The last time Duke and Elon faced off was all the way back in 2014, with Duke winning 52-13. Now, overall, Duke has a 107-25-5 all-time record against non-FBS opponents. Duke has played 36 different non-FBS schools and has a winning record against 26 of them. The last time Duke fell to an FCS school was 2011 during the David Cutcliffe era, when Duke was defeated by the Richmond Spiders 23-21. And now it's time for Did You Know? Elon has only been known as the Phoenix since 2000. Before that, the school mascot was a walking contradiction. The first school nickname of Elon was coined the Fighting Christians in 1922 when the school served mostly students from North Carolina and Virginia. The name stuck, and students wore the nickname as a badge of honor. An actual Fighting Christian mascot did not make an appearance at the sporting event until the 1970s, but quickly became a fan favorite. The mascot was described as an angry Amish man with a bowler hat that looks like an old-time fighter. The Fighting Christian would continue to be a mainstay at sporting events, roaming the sidelines until early 2000, when the school made the jump from the NAIA to Division I. In May of 1999, that is, the new school president, Leo Lambert, put in a motion to change the mascot and school nickname. His reason was simple. The Fighting Christian moniker and mascot worked locally, but nationally, both were viewed as a laughingstock, said Lambert. I remember going out to Notre Dame for when Elon played Notre Dame the year before we changed the mascot, and it was the Fighting Christians versus the Fighting Irish. Not everybody understood Elon was founded by the Christian church, and we were the Fighting Christians. It worked locally, but it did not work nationally. People laughed at it. That's not what you want to get out of your mascot. Laughter. After many discussions and rejected mascot suggestions, such as the trains, the oak trees, and the fire, the school landed on the name Phoenix. The name was to symbolize the school being resurrected and rebuilt from a devastating fire in 1923 that almost closed down the school permanently. As for the Fighting Christian mascot, he was sent out in the best possible way. During the graduation ceremony for the class of 2000, after all the students received their diploma, the school made the audience aware that they had forgotten one graduate. President Lambert then called the Fighting Christian to the stage, where he was presented with an honorary diploma as a way to send the mascot out in style. And that was the tale of the tape for the Elon Phoenix. Josh?
Awesome. So the Fighting Christians there will be facing the former Fighting Christians for sure. So before we get to our predictions for this game, I do want to encourage you, if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe, to like, to comment. We try to keep up with those comments on YouTube. We appreciate those of you who watch our ugly mugs. And then if you are on Facebook, you can search Duke Football Talk and find our group. We try to keep that group hopping in there. And then, of course, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok, we're at Duke FB Talk. Please follow us, share what we do with another Duke fan. That'd be awesome. And then if you're listening, Spotify, if you'll give us a 5-star rating, it'd be awesome. Apple, and here's where I want to spend just a little bit of time before we hit our predictions, Brian. On Apple, we do ask you to give us a 5-star rating and review, because those reviews really help. So I'm going to read a couple of reviews that have taken place here over the last, let's say the first one will be from May, from Lagfy, Laggffy. Awesome balance of insightful analysis, good banter, knowledge of Duke lore, and fan energy. Keep up the good work, guys. In August, this month, Kobe Bowen, great insight on Duke football. Love listening to these guys. Here's a cool one. Let's Go Rockies, earlier this month in August. These guys are great. They're not unrealistic with expectations, and they're very real. They're also optimistic and entertaining. It hasn't always been easy being a Duke football fan, and these guys have suffered through it with the rest of us. Love their work. Keep up the great work. And then the last one, Scott CPA 1. I don't think that's Scott Medlin. He's not a CPA. But Scott CPA 1, earlier this past week. If my friends and I got together to do a Duke football podcast, it would not sound nearly as good as this. Enjoy the humor and the honesty. And so we appreciate that. Those reviews and ratings, if you would do that for us, that would be really, really cool. We're humbled that you would listen to what we put out, and we really, really appreciate it. Brian, let's talk predictions, man.
All right, as we've done in years past, the four of us are going to give our predictions on who we think is not only going to win the game, but give the score to the game, as well as what we think Duke is going to wear, both helmet and uniforms. We will put that out, with it being a Friday game, Wednesday. Let's do Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah.
Tuesday or
Sometime.
Wednesday,
Yep.
On Twitter and Facebook. So if you're a part of our Facebook group, be on the lookout for that as well, where you give your predictions. If you want to give what you think the team is going to wear as well, you can. But whoever gets closest score on both Facebook and Twitter, you will get a free Section 17 shirt. And we will announce the winners on next week's episode leading into the Northwestern game. So I'm unmuted, but if anyone wants to start before me, please, by all means, get going.
Do you have the lines?
Let me go. I'll work on it.
All right.
I can start. I mean, or
I think Duke was like plus 23.5, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know what the over-under was. So go ahead.
as far as the score prediction, I'm gonna go. Obviously, Duke winning. I'm gonna go Duke 41, Elon 13, and the uniforms. I guess I'm gonna go relatively vanilla with the white helmet, blue D, blue uniform, white, blue, white, basically. Yeah. So
22.5 is the spread. Over under is 49.5 points. So actually a little bit more conservative than what I would have thought. I'll go next since I found that. So I think this is going to be your atypical Duke beats an FCS school.
You mean typical or atypical?
Atypical. Thank you.
Atypical means not typical.
Typical. Duke hasn't lost to an FCS school since 2011. Typical. Were you listening to the tail of the tape?
Yeah, I was. We're like 120 something and whatever against FCS.
There you go. Okay, that's more than what I thought you would retain. No, I see this being your usual Duke FCS matchup. They'll let the team stay in the first half, and then the second half they pull away. I've got Duke winning 45-17. I've got them wearing white lids with the luscious big blue D, as well as blue top, blue bottom. So white, blue, blue.
All right. I'm going to go with Duke winning, obviously. I'm going to go 38-10. I do believe we get to see the Todd father at least kick a field goal after he kicks all those extra points. As far as the combo, I think Manny may have kind of let a little cat out of the bag this afternoon with the shirt he had on at the press conference. I'm going to go with the blue lids with the script Duke.
The Gothic script or the old script?
The Gothic script. I'm sorry. Yeah, not the Gothic script. My apologies. Actually, let's change that. Let's go white helmet with the blue Gothic. I changed my mind there. Blue tops. This is where I have my issue. I think we're gonna go white pants, but I think the blue and blue would be perfect. So white, blue, Gothic script.
That would be the second year in a row that Duke has opened the season with the Gothic helmets.
Yep.
A good look. They really are.
Yep.
Brian,
just wait for my uniform prediction.
No, I can't wait. I already know what's coming. Please indulge us.
It's gonna be great. I'm not gonna win, but I'm gonna do it just to piss you off. All right, so I've got Duke in a similar fashion as these guys. And you think about it, man. I really, once again, if we go back to earlier in the episode, I really do think that Brewer and Murphy are gonna be like, this is like we want to make a statement. So I'm gonna stay in that 40s range with you guys. I'm gonna go. I'll go a little over. I'll go 48. So it's 6 touchdowns, two field goals. I'll go 48, and then I am going to give them, because I think our defense is going to stay on the field, I'm going to give them 21. I don't know that they're going to score that much, but I'm going to give them 21 because I think we're just going to score quickly, and our defense is just going to be on the field too much. So 48-21, and I have us wearing one of the players' favorite combos. It's going to be the black lids with the blue D, the white top, and the black pants. So black, white, black with the blue D on the helmet. It's Brian Kennedy's favorite uniform combination.
I honestly don't know what's worse, black, white, black, or white, black, white.
Oh, I love the white, black, white, man. That white, black, white is sick.
Okay. One thing that I hope they do this year, and I think we talked last year with Graham and Riley about it. They've never done it before. Blue, what was it? Black, blue, blue.
Yep.
Like the black helmet with the blue D and then blue top, blue bottom.
Yeah.
I think the Colts did
I
that.
would
They
actually
got
like to really see. I would like to see a black helmet with the new Gothic script, but you got
yes.
to do it right. The Gothic script's got to be white with like a blue outline, so you can see it.
I was
You know,
going to
like
say I was going to say blue with a white outline.
Yeah,
but
depending. Your outline's got to be thick enough where you can see it, though.
Yeah.
But I would like to see. I would like to see them mess around with that. But I mean, listen, you're the one who sat down with Wes for however long, so you know, not that it's his decision, but
No, it is. I think Manny told us it was the team's decision.
yeah,
And if a certain uniform or certain helmet catches fire, he's fine wearing it every single game if they can.
Yep.
So it just means more laundry work for the equipment staff.
I got a question for you guys. Let's have a little fun here. What does Manny wear on the sideline?
Ooh. Folks,
Okay.
if you remember, the Midnight Rider loved his long sleeve
hoodies, man.
t-shirt hoodies. They were t-shirt hoodies.
The helmet hoodies.
Yes, and I will say they are very comfortable. So I see what he was doing there. What do we even know what he wore at Penn State, or was that like a dress code?
I don't know. I've got it. I think I know what he's going to wear. I'm going to throw it out there. So they have these like short sleeve, like baseball jacket almost looking deals, like a quarter or half zip short sleeve, but they're like a jacket type of a vibe, and it's got the Gothic Duke on it on the left chest. So I'm going to go with the short sleeve, like baseball jacket looking thing.
Not like Brent Key did, right?
That's I didn't notice Brent Key.
Brent Key always does like kind of like a Belichick. It's sweatshirt cut off at the sleeves.
Yeah, so Duke's DB coach Bentley, I forget what his first name is. He will be rocking that. He's a Belichick disciple, and he rocks that every practice. The cut off hoodie.
I could see Manny just wearing like a polo. Like that's what I feel.
3-piece suit.
Yeah, three-piece suit.
Yeah, he's not pulling an Al Golden out there in the 3-piece suit.
I'm thinking like the polo, like the whatever color. I mean, his color might match the uniform. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be something similar to that, or possibly. Who knows?
So I will leave this tidbit, and I don't believe it wasn't at in the video with Wes. So one interesting fact about David Cutcliffe, the team never wore the same colors as their opponent. So if it was a UNC game and UNC wore their blue tops or their blue lids, Duke would not wear their blue. They would either go white or black. If Duke wore, it was basically just they wanted to contrast the other team. Mike Elko, if I remember correctly, I think they had pretty much everything set before the season began. They just never released it to the public so they could film those release videos. Manny, as we've discussed, it sounds like it's a week-by-week basis. If this team wins in a certain helmet and uniform and they want to keep wearing it, have at it. We'll keep doing it. If they don't like it, we'll move on to something else. But Scott mentioning the script makes you wonder, and I'm going to ask y'all this. Will we see the return of the script this year, the script helmets?
Oh, the old script?
I'm talking like the one behind me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope not. God, no. I hope not. I know it's unpopular. A lot of you old heads love that thing, but man, there's a lot of bad memories with that script.
I was going to say if we did the Duke blue helmet with the black script, woo, those were the dark ages after.
Yeah, that was rough, man.
That was. Jamie, do you think we'll see the script back on the field?
No, I think we should burn it.
Okay.
I'm thinking we should burn it.
So as of right now, we're going to see the D and the Gothic.
Say that one more time.
The D. We're going to see the D.
The D.
The D. The big white D and the big blue D.
You're also seeing the big deck.
Yeah, we're going to see the big D on the big deck. There we go. We need to close this episode out. Wow.
Parents, cover your kids' ears.
The following episode.
Listen, I'm not the lead pastor anymore, and these guys have gone straight to hell. So
I can't ask for a confession on Sunday mornings after a Duke game anymore.
I'm still ordained, Brian, so I can do your wedding and funeral, and I can do your second wedding and your funeral.
Gosh, thanks for the vote of confidence there.
That is a 2-in-1 thing anyway. But
yeah, I do a special. You can just pay for them both up front, man, and I'll take care of you. Wedding
I'll marry the second wife, and the first wife will kill me afterwards.
Dude, there you go.
There you go.
We'll knock this out real quick.
But again, folks, really quick, be on the lookout when we post on both Facebook and Twitter, where you can give your predictions as well. Again, the winner will receive a Duke Football Talk Section 17 T-shirt. We will reach out after the game and we will mention you on the following week's episode. So it will be the Northwestern preview episode and the Elon reaction. So, Josh, did I forget anything before we close up shop?
Man, no, I think we're good, man. Want to once again thank everybody for their interactions and share this with a Duke friend, a Duke football friend, parent, player, family, whatever it is. We really appreciate the support and the help. So, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks again to Wes Durham. Finally was able to get him on. Brought some great insight, not only about the Duke Elon game, but about the ACC as a whole. We're hoping to bring some more content like that in our interviews because you, the fans, ask us about the upcoming game. So we want to try to bring as much beneficial content as possible. But that'll do it for this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. We will be back next week, even with Labor Day. Maybe not Jamie. He might still be at the beach, but you never know. We will be back to preview the upcoming Northwestern game and to give our reaction to this past weekend's Elon Duke game. But that'll do it for us. For Josh Cox, Jamie Holt, Scott Medlin, and producer Tyler Witt, I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, and this has been another episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast.